Hi there, Vibe Gardeners. In this episode of Vibe Gardening Informed Edition, we're going to be moving indoors to talk about how I have set up my plants for indoor gardening this winter and how that might help you decide how to get your garden indoors thriving this winter, especially in a place like Zone 6A here in Southeast Michigan. That said, let's go. So the first thing I want to talk about a little bit about this whole setup is we gotta consider that I'm only going to be showing you guys the west-facing window of my living room, as this is the most prominent window in the entire house. And when it goes into my basement for seed germination or my hydroponic systems, the whole lighting system will be a lot different. So with that said, this is what this looks like right now. And the first thing that we want to consider is which window we're choosing. And like I said, this window is the biggest window that covers the entire wall, and it's west facing, giving us the best light because I don't have very good south facing window like you really want, especially in northern hemisphere. When you go down to the southern hemisphere, you want yourself a north facing window, but I don't have any of that. I have a west facing window, and right in front of this window on the outside are my tomato and pepper garden. And that garden is the best thriving one as it's getting a lot of the heat bank saved up during the afternoon from the west facing sun. So this too here is getting the best sun in the afternoon, getting all the sun they can, and it's getting at least I would say about 3 to 4 hours through the afternoon, and which is not bad considering Michigan in the winter, but it's not really all that great for all the plants. So I'm going to show you guys how I took advantage of this window and then I made it work for what I need to do here. The first that I want to really talk about is this plant stand, which I'll link below on my product links. This is a plant stand that I got on Amazon. It's able to hold approximately 5 plants. And the way that we did it here was we put it on the edge of the window where it has the least amount of sun. But these are more of a tropical rainforest style, um, what's called plants. And these things really do well when it is less light. So for example, the snake plants, the Draconaceae, and actually we have quite a few different types of snake plant here. They all thrive equally in less light. And that's what the setup here is all about. Give them less light, enough light to thrive, but not enough to really burn them because they're used to canopy, competing with a lot of other plants for the sun. So this gives them that similar view, and it does get quite a bit of sun in the afternoon. But we're not going to give it any extra lighting because that's all it needs. Now, the newest addition to my garden setup here is this shelf behind me. This was actually made from scrap wood from 2x4s that I was able to strip out of a wall downstairs that we had a basically demolition. The wood technically isn't free, but it's basically free to me because I had to throw it away anyway if I don't repurpose it. So what I did was I basically split the 2x4 in half to be able to form 2x2 strips. And I'll put the design of this thing down there as I was able to basically piece it together to have 2 foot tall shelves, two 2 foot tall shelves to be able to create this setup here. And the beauty of that is that though I didn't exactly measure perfectly in that it's about 30 inches wide, which is not the best length, wide. But what's going on here is that it's going to give you the ability to basically hang up these. This is a T8 grow light that can supplement the natural sunlight. It's 30 watts. This is where a grow light, if you watch my episode on how to what are grow lights and their scams, this is one of them that I found to be extremely useful in the living room. We have guests over. Because if you use those LED bulbs that are basically using a lot more energy to produce some kind of light, it disperses the light a lot more, making more of a glare on the guests when they sit on couches like this one right here. And so that does create a problem. And the beauty of being able to put yourself this type of shelf is that you can tie those long T8 style grow lights, and you can blare it down on all your plants down there. And all you need is a 30 watt instead of multiple high wattage grow lights and get the same effect. So I find it to be extremely useful, and also by having LED, it doesn't generate heat that can become a problem for potentially burning your plants as they grow taller. And it's one of those things that it's the brighter the window is, the lower wattage you can bring your grow lights down to. I would recommend no less than 10 to 15 watts. Probably 15 is the lowest I would go. But because of the west-facing window and being in Southeast Michigan, the winter is a little dark for it. So 30 watts is where I kind of want to be. Though if it really gets dark, like downstairs in the basement, I'll go even 70 up to all the way up to 150 watts if I need to. But when you get to about 150 watts, you have to really worry about potentially burning your plants with too much light. But 30, I think, is great for supplementing the winter light here in Michigan. And if it's not enough, the plants will become leggy, and we can basically address it as it comes. As I've seen earlier, in the earlier scene with the snake plants and other tropical rainforest type of plants, the light here, it actually turned off in the middle of the scene. And the reason why it turned off is that this light is on a timer. Actually, it's on a Wi-Fi plug that is on a timer. And this is extremely important in that you want to make sure that your plants are getting enough light. As we talked about earlier with the snake plants, it doesn't really need any more light. But for these sun-loving plants here like rosemary and succulents, you want to give it about 16 hours of light. But you don't want to give it any more than that because plants too need to rest like humans. Another important aspect of being able to have an indoor garden in the winter is that you have to consider having enough air circulating around the plants back there. And one of the things that really becomes a thing is you want to have this dry and wet period in the soil. So if the soil is always wet, you're going to end up having fungal growth or other kind of disease that might become a problem for your plants. And another thing is when the fungus grows, it's going to bring the all infamous fungal gnats. And that's why having airflow is such an important thing. So right here we have actually an oscillating fan, which I'll link below. And the one I have here, those are really good for getting yourself that sort of natural style in and out of wind that these plants will get. And it's going to give them that nice little breeze that nature provides. And they also have this clip-on fan that's not oscillating, but this is something that, especially when you start growing things like dill, this is going to be extremely important because dill is one of those plants that if you don't have wind blowing at it, it'll never grow strong enough to be able to support itself. And then it's going to collapse on its own weight, flop over, and actually kill itself. So this is why you must have wind if you want to grow these type of plants. And especially if you want to grow plants that's going to get hardened to go outside, having this wind inside is going to give you that shortened hardening period that you need before you bring those plants outdoors. And another very important thing here is that if you don't have enough air flowing, you will have watering problems. One of the things is that you can always feel the top of the soil with your finger to see how wet it is, but it never tells you what the actual humidity is in the actual soil down below. And a lot of times that's where root rot can grow. Now in the northern hemisphere, like when you go more north, like Southeast Michigan and more north, when the winter gets cold, the heater blows on, the root rot doesn't seem to be as bad of a problem up here as it is down south. But you still want something like this. This is a what's called a moisture meter for your soil. That's something that you really want to get. It's a probe because it is sticking in your soil, and it's going to tell you on this meter how actually wet this thing is. And I highly recommend that you just get a moisture meter only. A lot of them comes with like a moisture, pH, and light meter. One thing about light meter is that it is very inconsistent, and if you want to get something that's very accurate or accurate enough to matter to you, it's going to get very expensive very quickly. So I recommend to just basically watch your plants. If they become leggy, you know it's not enough light. But with something like moisture, this is not expensive and it's very accurate. It's going to save your plants from getting too much moisture or getting too dry. So get yourself one of these, and I'm going to link what I have down here. This works really well for me. So that should help you in your watering cycle with your plants. The final topic I'm going to go over is going to be the material that your pot is made of. As you can see here, my wife has a lot of succulents, and they're all in terracotta or clay pots. And these things are more airing, let more air come through and let the dirt dry out faster. This is extremely important for things like succulents, cactuses, anything that's more of an arid climate. But then with everything else, it really doesn't quite matter what you use, and that's why I'm using this plastic pot here, as you've seen from my propagation of rosemary episode. And it does really well for things like rosemary, but you have to make sure that things get dried out fast enough. If you don't get that dry wet cycle with the soil, you want to make sure that you're watering less to make sure that things are happening fast enough. And the other thing too, you're not seeing here in this frame, is that there is a heat register below it that's blowing hot air in the winter. This is going to bring down the humidity quite a bit, and it's going to really dry the soil out a lot quicker. So you really want to use that moisture meter to make sure that your soil is going to be wet enough when the temperature goes down far enough outside, requiring your heater to be constantly blasting. So there you have it. This is my humble little setup in my living room with my west-facing window here, a whole wall window. And it's by no means amazing, perfect, or really that great, but it's something that I know is going to give me some great plants in the winter. That's going to be able to take full advantage of the winter lack of sun here in Michigan and be able to make it thrive. And with the modularity of these linkable T8 grow lights and the shelving system here, I'll be able to have something that I can use wherever I want to add more plants or even build more shelves if I want to. So I hope that gives you some inspiration what you can do if you don't have anything like this, or if you have something better than what I have. Please leave a comment below and share your experiences with a great winter setup. With that said, let's garden and vibe. Let's go.